What's going on, everybody? Merry Christmas. Welcome to the channel this evening. It is always a Merry Christmas when you've got deer in the freezer by Christmas. So that's what we're here. If you saw the last video, you'll know that I took a doe out there on the MLD property, and it's Christmas week. We got a lot to do, and we want to get this deer taken care of before we head off for all the Christmas shenanigans and doing all that stuff. So I thought I would make a video not to how to process the deer, not the inner workings. So what I wanted to share is 5, maybe 6 tips of those of you who are even only thinking about doing it yourself, because it can be so intimidating. And there's a lot better channels out there that can show you exactly how to do it detail by detail. I'm not going to take all your time today to do that. What I'm going to tell you is answer some of the common questions and really give you some of the facts around the best ways you're going to save the money and how you should really start. Maybe it's not best to go all in at once. So we're going to get started with that. While I break down this hind quarter, we'll talk about a little bit of that in detail, because this is really the primary cut, right? This is what we're going after. This is the biggest cut of meat anyway. So we're going to talk about that as we go forward. So let's get started. We'll start off with the very first tip. What I will tell you is, if you're thinking about doing this, don't think you have to do it all on the first time. My advice to you, I would say, tip number 1, fact 1, don't do it all at once. Do about half of it. Do everything but the sausage. Everybody gets intimidated by the sausage. So do your steaks, make your hamburger, which is really easy, and then go pay to have your sausage done. You still save a ton of money, and we'll even talk about that a little bit, where the processors make their money. So you're going to save all your money, a lot of money, more than half, by doing it that way. I would say, to start off, don't do it all at once. Pick your big items, cut you some steaks, cut you some back straps, because it's really not that hard. And we'll talk about that as we kind of go through this. So I'm gonna bring you in here real close so you can see what I'm doing. One of the coolest tips I ever learned was how to cut these knuckles out. When you cut this knuckle, right below, like I said, this is the deer shoulder. If you're looking at it like this, sunny side up is what I call it. You know, trashy side up is this side. So sunny side up, right over here is that white knuckle. If you come off the muscle about 2 inches, cut into that knuckle, cut in and down, you'll pop that shank loose, and then you don't have to sit there and fight that thing to get it out. You are right there. Boom, shank is out. No cutting leg bones, nothing like that. So from here, I like to flip it over, dirty side up, reach in here, get right next to this bone, because we got to get this bone out. Like I said, don't be afraid just because you're doing this for the first time that you're going to mess up the meat. All right, get down in there, just keep your knife close to the bone and get it out. Quit worrying about the finesse. Just follow it down. Keep your knife sharpener handy, because you're going to need it. And always roll away. That helps you kind of keep that access going. Come on, baby. Here she comes. There she goes. Bam. So we'll kind of toss that aside and trim that up later. Now, once again, like I said, I'm keeping the dirty side up, and you're going to start reaching in here and start rolling this thing open. Like I said, there's a couple of different muscle structures, but when you first start cutting, most of this you can just pull right open, and you'll see all that silver skin start coming out. When you see guys on videos cutting this stuff up, and you're like, man, my meat doesn't look like that. How come their meat is like fresh and red? Guys, when you freeze your meat, when you have it on ice for a long time, it's going to lose that red color. Don't freak out about that. This is what meat looks like. It turns whitish on the outside, and everybody handles theirs a little different, so don't worry so much about it. I said, here's that round on the right. You're gonna see it almost like it looks like a giant heart. So when you lay that thing out in front of you, dirty side up, where you cut that bone out, tendon facing down where the foot would have been, that's how I keep it oriented. When you start opening this thing up, this big chunk on the right is gonna be your roast or your round tip. You can use it for a lot of things, but most people are gonna use this for their roast or jerky or stew meat or anything like that. Like I said, that just rolled right out of there. And there you go. And I'm gonna throw it over here on the cutting board so I can clean it up a little more. Well, tell you what, I'll save that. But there you go. Once we clean that up, you wrap some bands around that. There's your roast. Now you're left with a couple of other muscle structures here. That one is more of a cleanup piece. Now, what you're gonna have left is your top round, your eye of round, and your bottom round. Now your top round is gonna be your larger over here on the upper left. And that's gonna be also where your best jerky comes from, your stew meat, tips, anything like that. So what I like to do, you can see that natural seam there. There we go. I did clean this table before I started this, so there's the top round. If you ever get confused, once you do it a couple of times laying down, you can flip it over. You see these white lines right in here? Just follow those lines. Split it open right there. So I'm used to doing it the other way, but you can always flip it over. Now this right here, this is what you're gonna trim up. Like this would be your eye round, this would be your top round, this would be your bottom round. Great jerky pieces, all of these. I think your eye round, you could actually make a little steak out of that if you wanted. But just for the purpose of tonight, I'm gonna make jerky out of this. I'm ready for a jerky batch. I haven't had jerky in a long time. So I'm keeping this simple. Roast and pretty much jerky meat. Maybe a little bit of hamburger. We'll make hamburger with trimmings. Like I said, the main thing being tip number 2, do everything but the sausage. I broke down this hind quarter and I'm ready to cut me some jerky strips here in a minute. I'm ready to clean this up and store it. And I'm halfway there with this piece of meat, which leads me to another tip, which is you do not have to vacuum seal everything, regardless of what anybody says. You can freezer Ziploc bag seal it, wrap it in wax paper, stick it in the freezer, and as long as you're gonna eat it within the next 6 months to a year, you're gonna be good. You can wrap it in some cellophane or something and then wrap it in wax paper, tape it up, put it away, you're fine. Just because it's not vacuum sealed you don't have to go out and buy a $150 vacuum sealer to do your processing. Are they nice? Of course they're nice, but you do not have to have one. The other fact tip that I wanted to bring up was when you kill a deer, don't be afraid to put the whole thing in the freezer and get to it later. A lot of guys, man, I don't have time to break a deer down. I don't have time to take it to the processor because I don't have time. Think about it. The guys who kill several deer a year, you think they're doing this over and over, week after week when they work and do all kinds of other stuff? No, they wrap it up, sometimes whole quarters. I've done this myself. Wrap a whole quarter in wax paper, seal it up as best as I can. I'll put it in my freezer, and I'll wait until I kill another deer, pull it all out at one time, because you don't want to do this all at once. You're not going to pull out your table, all your ice chests, all your bags, and everything you got, your knives, get everything ready, and do it, and then turn around next week and do it again. You can freeze all of that, and some people may not like it, but what I'm telling you is that you can do it. There's nothing wrong with that. So my next tip would be to focus on the hind quarter. The hind quarter is the bulk of the work. Your front shoulders really aren't going to be, they are used for sausage and ground meat. Regardless, you're grinding it up. That's what front shoulders are for. You can get one little flat iron steak out of that. That's on another level. Guys like us, people like us, I'm not worried about that. So just think of it that way. That's one less thought you have to have. Front shoulders are for ground meat and sausage. So if you want steaks, you want jerky, you want stew meat, tips, it's all out of the hindquarter. So now that's cool. You just like, you kind of removed like half of your stress of thought in one fell swoop, right? So you got that and you're good to go. So I'm gonna clean this piece up and get ready to cut me some jerky strips. And while I do that, I'll tell you about another tip that gets a lot of questions, and it gets confusing because it's, guys, you know, you don't want to screw up your meat, but you don't want to get yourself sick or anybody else sick either, right? I'm gonna clear it up to you right now. Hamburger, you do not need to put cure in it. Sausage, you need to put cure in it. Cure is simply for bacteria purposes. Hamburger is going to be hot cooked sausage. You're going to cold smoke it, light smoke it. You need to add that cure, let it sit overnight, and then you can do what you want with it. The other thing is that everybody, oh man, I need a smokehouse, I need a smoker for sausage. You don't have to smoke your sausage if you don't want to. You can cook it later. So go that route if you want to. You know, everybody thinks that when you're processing your deer, you got to have the best sausage, the best recipes, the best smoker. You got to do it perfect. When you don't, all you need to do is to be able to cut big chunks out. You can cut your steaks with a little bit of practice. Hamburger is simple. Even if it's as simple, okay, another tip. Well, I got to mix fat. Everybody says what fat I need to add brisket or anything like that. Major tip here. When you're first starting out, grind up your meat, go to the store and get the biggest log of ground hamburger meat you can get, high fat, you know, whatever it is, whatever they got, I don't know what, 80-20 or 70-30, and buy it in proportion to what your ground deer is and mix that up. Mix that up, and that will serve as a great hamburger for you, a great start. Instead of going to the store, buying pork fat, having the butcher set it aside for you, buying brisket, going to mix my brisket, because that's what everybody does, right? That's what the pros do. You don't have to start like that. You can go buy existing ground meat in a portion of 70-30 or 60-40. Won't cost you near as much. Mix it in, package it, and you're good to go. And that's it. Not even freezer package, guys. You can put it in freezer Ziploc bags and you've got ground meat. You don't have to get crazy expensive with it and do it like the processors do. Because honestly, that's just not how most people are doing it, especially when you first start. Because I guarantee you, if you try to do it so perfect on your first go round, you're not going to get it perfect and you're going to get discouraged. So just keep it simple. Sorry, I'm gonna get a drink. I've got my monster over there. You don't have to do it perfect the way you see the processors do it. All you have to do is want to do it. And you can do it your own way, and you can still be successful at it. All right, so let's do a quick review on the facts and the tips that we've gone over so far. Number one, don't do it all at once. Actually, do everything but the sausage. I know that's what everybody's afraid of. Cut your steaks, make you a little jerky, cut your back strap up, you know, cut your back straps up, cut them into little medallions. You'll fall in love with it. Or cut your cubes on the side, package it up, freeze it, take that to the processor in itself, because you'll save money taking it to them just to make sausage instead of taking them a whole hindquarter, because they're making money off of that base processing fee. So the other thing is focus on the hindquarter. That's where you're getting your steaks, that's where you're getting your jerky and your stew meat and all the good stuff, right? Front shoulder, ground meat and sausage. Stick with that. The other thing is you do not have to vacuum seal if you don't want to. You can use freezer bags, and you can just push the air out of it, tuck it in the freezer, and I promise you it'll be good until you eat. Or, part of the other tip, freeze it for later so you can finish processing. Cut it up, cube it up, stick it in the freezer when you kill your next deer, and you cut and cube that up, Pull it all out at once and then make your ground and do it that way. The other real good air clearer is that you don't need cure for hamburger, but you do need cure for sausage. If you stick with that, that's a really good starting package, base package. Take your time with your knife and do your thing. So with that said, I'll bring you over here and I'll show you some deer processing prices that I printed off. No specific companies, but I'm going to show you where you're going to save the bulk of your money is just like this. When you look at some of these prices, you see a processing fee for 60 bucks, a whole deer is 70 bucks. Trimmings, frozen meat, additional services, removing a backstrap is $5.50, partially quartered $5.50, tenderizing section. So the main processing is a base fee, and that usually comes with deboning and things of that nature. Like I said, here, we'll fold this one up and we'll take a look here. And you can see one deer or hog, 70 bucks. Large animals over 100 pounds would be $1 per pound. Boneless meat, $1 per pound. Venison smoked, $3.50 a pound for sausage. Like I said, and this is where a lot of your specialty items add up. But where you can save money is doing all of this deboning and initial processing yourself. If you take them in 20 pounds of cubed up meat and say, I want to have some sausage made, most places you're just looking at this base cost of $3.50 a pound for sausage. So if you're looking at $3.50 a pound, you take in, 20 or 30 pounds, compared to your base costs, they really don't have to charge you that much for cutting the steaks, processing your back. All that's easy. All that backstrap and doing what we're doing right here is easy. This is where they make the money. But what you can do is get out of that initial processing fee at a lot of locations, and then you can just take in your frozen bags or partially frozen bags of cubed up meat and get your specialty summer sausages, your snack sticks, your smoked sausage until you're comfortable doing it yourself. So, and that's really where you're saving your money up front. You can do it like this and still save over half your cost. So don't be intimidated to get in there. And that's why I say you don't have to do it all at once. Take that and put it in your back pocket. So one other tip I'll leave with you before we go is I'll bring you in here. If I'm gonna cut across the grain here, when I lay it on its side, I'll be looking at those horizontal muscle striations. And when you're biting off the tip, all you're doing is ripping those fibers in the direction they want to go. You don't want to be biting. You take a bite off of muscle fibers that are running away from you, you're going to be trying to pull the whole piece of jerky towards you. I hope that doesn't make too much stupid sense, but I think you understand what I'm saying. If I'm going to peel these muscle fibers away, I'm going to do them one layer at a time. And it's so much of a better eating experience to eat it like that and pull those fibers away. It's going to help that jerky, even if it's a little crispy, it's going to help it break away. And I actually brought another knife here just for this, so just like that. Now most of those fibers are going this way, so when I bite it, you're just going to tear them away from themselves. They're probably a little thick. We'll have to cook them a little long, but that's cool. I don't mind. Maybe we'll lay these over and cut them down the middle and make a little bit of thinner strips. So like I said, guys, this wasn't meant to be an entire deer processing video, although I think with the focus on the hindquarter, you can see how quickly it is to break that apart, and then how you can work with the individual muscles. When you get your round tip for your roast, you get your top round, eye round, which can be made into a little steak. But basically, once you get it broken down like this, you can choose to do anything you want. And really all it takes is doing what you want, putting it in a baggie and putting it up. So I'm gonna finish making out this jerky. I'm gonna clean this roast up. I'm gonna put it up. I'm gonna keep going to work at it. And I won't keep you here any longer, because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna break those front shoulders down, cube it up, and I'm gonna put it in a baggie right here. I'm gonna put it in a gallon Ziploc baggie, and I'm gonna put it in the freezer for when I get my next deer, so I can get it out all at once and do all the ground at the same time. I'm gonna get my back straps. I'm gonna lay them out. They're already cleaned up, and I'm gonna use one and I'm gonna cut it into chops. I'm gonna cut it into little medallion chops. And the other one, I'm gonna cut it in half and I'm gonna store them together, and I'm gonna just cook those whole, butterfly them later and just cook them as a whole tenderloin. That's how we like to eat them. So bacon wrapped tenderloins, it's all good. I mean, this is what it's about, guys. Don't be intimidated. Take some of these basic tips. Like I said, the biggest thing I would say is just don't do it all at once. Leave that sausage to somebody else. Everybody's scared of that, and it is something you want to get right, but do this first and take some of these tips, storage tips, time tips, and go with that, because this is how you get started, and I promise you, you won't regret it. Once you get this started, you're killing 3 or 4 deer a year, you're saving a ton of money, and it's a lot of fun. Once you get it figured out, you can get into diving into your own spices and all your own recipes and doing your thing. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for dropping in. Leave a comment below. Let me know where you're at in your journey in processing your own meat. If you didn't agree with anything I said, just drop it down below and we'll talk it out. Like I said, no professional, but I'm still learning in all this as well. I don't have perfect recipes, perfect tactics in smoking and things like that. So another good thing is to get a mentor. So hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you on the next one.
Oh, so long for now. Grown so tired this time, so I'll take